Let's Talk Prevention Idaho. This podcast is a production led by the statewide nonprofit Community Coalitions of Idaho, or CCI. Here at CCI, it is our job to support the work of prevention across the state of Idaho through education, training, and providing valuable resources. We help make the work of prevention happen all across Idaho. This podcast will update listeners on what CCI is doing from week to week, as well as provide information for vital professionals in Idaho across the country.
How's it going, everybody? David Phillips here with Community Coalitions of Idaho, and we have yet another amazing podcast that we're bringing to you today. And once again, this is all about the workshops that we're going to be providing at our third annual Fall Prevention Conference in Moscow, Idaho, at the University Inn in Moscow. And really wanted to give you guys an opportunity to get a sneak peek at some of the workshops that we're going to be providing. It's a very diverse and interesting group of individuals that have made themselves available to teach our attendees on some really neat things that we can use, not only in the prevention space, but some of our partners as well, with like mental health and our SUD partners and stuff like that. So it's really neat as it kind of crosses all of those boundaries and all of those platforms. So one of the things that I wanted to really pinpoint as we were promoting this conference is that it is going to be very interactive. You're not going to be sitting there for hours listening to someone drone on and on and on and on. We want to make sure that you are engaged, that you understand what's being shared with you, and that you just get the most out of it. One of the things that I learned in my time working, being educated as a child development professional, is all the different ways that we learn. Like me, I'm a very tactile learner. You show me how to do it one time, and I'm more successful at being able to learn it quickly than if you just handed me a manual. Some people want to sit down and hear a bunch of data and stuff, and they want to learn it through a lecture. Some people just say, give me the book. I don't need all this. So what we want to do is we want to give you these trainings in as many different ways as possible. And what's really cool is we did have a chance to, if you were in Boise at our law enforcement training in June, you did get a chance to meet this individual. You might have been exposed to his game. And if you are really heavy in the Region 3, Canyon County, McCall, up that way, you might have run into Dr. Ryan Hulbert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Hulbert has he's done a lot of things that I think are very cool and interesting and innovative. But one of the thing that he's going to be talking about at our Fall Prevention Conference is a game that you've created, right, Dr. Hulbert?
Yes, it was created about close to 20 years ago now.
And what's the name of the game? The name of the game?
It's alternatively called the Support Team Game. The full title is the Youth Support Team Game.
And what's because if you guys are listening to this audio only, we're going to have a link down in the description where you can actually see a couple of people playing this game, but kind of describe what the board looks like and kind of the premise of the game for people as they're listening. And then if you guys want to see it in action, click that link in the description.
Okay, it's patterned after a football field, and I think it'll make more sense if I give you just a little bit of history. I was raised here in Idaho, came back about 27 years ago. I kind of like to view myself as a salmon. I went away and grew up and came back. I received my doctorate in clinical psychology from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, but it had two subspecialties. One was alcoholism treatment, and the other was rural community mental health. And I didn't know what that meant, but I was from Idaho and it sounded good. But what it has to do with is viewing the whole community as a resource in helping address needs and help strengthen people. And so when I came back to Idaho, I was working in private practice here. I live out in Parma. And I became aware of the 40 developmental assets by the Search Institute. They've been around for probably about 40 years, where they, through research, including here in Idaho, determined that 20 internal assets, things such as resistance to substance abuse, also honesty, responsibility, 20 of those, that the more a person had, the less likely they were to get into deep trouble. In combination with those are 20 external assets. These are things such as, are there after school things for young people to do? Are there supportive neighbors? Are they involved with any faith organization, supportive parents, and so forth? The more of those, also, the better people are able to avoid serious behavior difficulties. So anyway, I was really enamored with those. And in 2001, I was hired as the statewide clinical services administrator for the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. And they were very innovative, still are, trying to prevent difficulties, strengthen families and individuals. And so then I began thinking of how, in a fun way, I could engage young people, staff members working with them, plus their families, and remembered the 40 developmental assets. So I created a game, first just in butcher paper at my kitchen table, and tried it out with my teenagers. And later some prototypes were developed. Eventually, through the Idaho Federation of Families, the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections, and the Department of Health and Welfare, we received a small grant to produce 100 game boards. And on one side of the outside the field, on one side are helmets representing different support team members. Each has a different color. On the other side of the field are the 20 internal assets. And there's cards that I developed based on typical teenage experiences, good and bad, called life experiences. And depending on your choice of the internal assets that you buy, so to speak, with play money, and the support team members that you purchase with the play money, you then go through the life experiences, and some of them knock you back unless you are buffered by having some of these internal and external assets, or move you forward depending on which ones you have. And it's been real rewarding to see how people put themselves into the game and have fun at the same time. I played it in a variety of contexts, including the biggest one was BSU adolescent and emerging adulthood class that I've taught for 6 years. Now it's done virtually, but when I was doing it for the first 3 years, at the very beginning of the class, we had 100 students in a large auditorium sitting around tables of about 8 students each and playing the game. It served as a way to get to know each other at the beginning of the class, but also to lay a foundation for a lot of the things we're going to be speaking about.
Yeah, what I like about the game is it kind of has a feel of like a few different popular games that we've either played, growing up, or things that have become popular. I like the cards you have remind me of like chance cards on Monopoly, and then the point system. Like, so you get a bad card, but if if you pick the right support in your on your support team, then you could buffer those consequences. And it kind of reminded me of Heroes of Might and Magic that me and my friends used to play. Is okay, you come at me with this big card, but I've got these cards here that I have active that counteract some of that you're shooting at me. So that was cool, but I was like, it has a lot of parts of it that reminded me of very popular games that have been developed recently, or things like Monopoly that have been out, for decades, that are ingrained in all of us. So I thought that was really cool.
I'm sure those factors influenced me when I was putting it together.
One of the things that I thought was the reason why I wanted to, when we put out the proposals, the call for people to run workshops at this fall prevention conference, and one of the reasons why I wanted to, I was excited to have you come showcase this game and talk about it. And we're not just going to be talking about the game, right? Like you're going to be bringing games so that we can have people pair up and actually physically play the game right there at the conference, right?
Yes, it will only be described as we do jump right into it. I'll have it all set up even as the workshop is beginning.
So they're not going to get like a whole like half hour on the game. They're going to literally sit down in front of the game and start. You're going to be describing it as they're picking their support players, buying their pieces, and going through the game, right?
Exactly. That's been the fun way to experience it that I've found.
What was neat is I think at our law enforcement conference training that we had in Boise in June, I watched our program coordinator, Lindsay, and one of the youth that attended play the game. And it was really cool to see how they're like, as they're pulling cards, they're like, oh, I wish I would have had this support person, because then it would have like I would be doing better at the game right now if I had that, because I keep getting these cards that need that one support. It was neat to kind of see the thought process of, next time I play this game, now I know that where I need to have more strengths at. So I thought that was really cool that like I could see the wheels turning in their head as they're playing the game for the first time.
Well, thank you. Let me comment on that for a moment. The game has a way of ending. It's not just totally open-ended. And if someone hasn't reached the end zone, which is entitled Happy and Successful Adulthood, by the time the game ends, which usually is about 20 minutes, then the instructions say, play the game again with a different configuration of internal assets and support team members. And if you don't give up, you will win. So it's built into it to encourage the player to try an alternative strategy like you were mentioning. And it does work. If you continue playing it with different strategies, you will win the game.
Well, it really reinforces that perseverance is the thing that helps us be successful. I know in my life, I don't have a whole lot of adverse experiences in my life. Come from a very healthy family. Parents, made pretty good choices for us. But even still, I've come up. I mean, life has handed me other things like cancer and hospitalizations for different things. So perseverance is, I think, important for all of us to know that just because something's knocked us down, that we don't have to just stay there, that there's ways that we can pick ourselves back up, dust ourselves off, learn from that experience, and make better choices moving forward, right?
Oh, that's so critical, yes.
So, trying to think. So, do you sell these games? Can people, like, if let's say some of our attendees just fall in love with the game and they want to bring it back, is this something where you sell these for purchase?
Yes, I do. I have produced them through a company here in Boise. They subcontract the actual game boards through Chicago Game and Card. And so they're very nicely made and durable. I sell them for $70. I wish I could sell them for cheaper. It costs me over $50 to make the game boards and the component parts. That's because I've been only able to order them 100 at a time. There'd be a better price break if I ever, did higher quantities. But I guess I feel a little less bad about the $70 when, there's unlimited usage of it. Plus, it's quite an educational and strength building type of educational game.
Yeah, the materials, the board, everything is very well crafted. And you're right. We've all watched Shark Tank before. We know that when you get your quantities up, you can bring your production price down, which then you either make a better profit or you can reduce the price to your consumers. So, but watching the game in action that first time, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we spend a lot of money on things that are less impactful to our lives. So it's not a big deal. I really think that the game has a lot of application, especially for what we're Idaho is trying to do. One of the things that we tried to tie in with this conference is things that our coalitions and our attendees can do to help them with the changes that Idaho is striving to make with our juvenile detention centers. I know they had the director from Clark County juvenile detention program out in Nevada come out and speak to all of I was the only prevention person in a room full of probation officers and judges and lawyers and juvenile detention workers and other cops, school resource officers, talking to us about the program that they have there in Clark County. I believe it's called Harbor. And the way that he has found success is he's moved away from actually any type of in-housing incarceration, and he's just surrounding the families and the youth that are finding themselves in trouble, just surrounding them in services. So really trying to get down to what each individual case needs, providing a lot of counseling and just trying to, and the amount of resources that he has combined in this program blew me away, because it's everybody has a stake in the success. And that's what I kind of like about because Idaho is allocated, I don't remember the dollar amount at this time, but millions of dollars out of the legislative session to start these resource centers, and a lot of our coalitions are joining in this effort. They've applied for some of this funding, so I want to make sure they have the tools to make them successful. One of the things that your game reinforces is a lot of the things that they have been doing in Clark County with their youth, is teaching them that just because that you have had, you've made these bad choices and stuff, you can persevere, you can learn from those mistakes, you can still be successful. We're here to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful. So I think that this is a really good tool that if any of our coalitions want to purchase this will be a great addition to their programs, especially if they're getting heavily involved in these resource centers to help our juvenile detention youth in the state of Idaho. So,
oh, that's exciting. I'd like to comment on that just for a moment. One of my dear friends out on the East Coast who ordered some games through a law enforcement agency a few years ago, he has a wonderful quote that he learned after going to a Search Institute workshop that I encouraged him to go to. His name is Owen Cardwell. And his quote is that every child is an asset and every adult can be an asset builder. And I'm kind of idealistic, I recognize, but I could picture every youth in Idaho having a support team around them in various realms, and that's part of the motivation for me to want to share the game, is after playing it and seeing the benefit of having support team members and internal assets, the natural question would be to a young person, what would you think about having your own support team with you being the quarterback, so to speak? And how could we help you in filling in the blanks of finding those people who could be the mentors in those designated areas?
Yeah, see, I love this because it's really going to open up a lot of conversations for a lot of good things that are happening here in Idaho, where it comes to just supporting everybody who needs it. I mean, that I truly believe that it takes a village to raise a child. Not one person has all of the answers. I mean, like I said, I grew up in a very healthy family, and there were still people from our church and schools and, you know, even sports teams and stuff that were integral parts of a lot of the things that I am today. So I think that it's very, even kids who aren't dealing with incarceration and any other, you know, external problems like that, to, you know, to that severity, even, you know, everyday normal kids that grow up in healthy families still need support from time to time to deal with issues and persevere through things like peer pressure and stuff like that. So yeah, I was really excited about the game. I'm glad that you're heading up to Moscow with us to showcase this. I'm really hoping that we have a lot of success. And what I really love is Stephen Hill, our keynote speaker for the 2 days of the conference. He's a lot of what your game has. He's used in his life, and his parents, his father will be there one of the days to talk about the hardships of being a father with one son who's fallen into addiction and 3 sons who aren't. So, like, you know, how they dealt with that as a family and how they support him and stuff. So I really think that a lot of the things that will be brought up in the keynotes will be reinforced by people like you, who are talking about, you know, different strategies that we can use to reach our youth, because just talking to them isn't going to do it all the time. So, you know, having this fun game that they can play, they're learning things like Honest Engine. I learned how to write a check by a game that my parents bought us when we were kids. I don't even remember the name of it, but anyone always asks me, how did you learn how to write a check? Because of that game. That game taught us, like, you had to write checks, and yet it was almost like Nerd Monopoly or something, but it taught us how to make budgets and write checks, and we had fun. But the whole time we were learning how to, you know, be functional, you know, once we had our own money and we had to pay our own bills and stuff. So I love those subliminal ways that we can reach out to our youth. And then too, as adults, we can kind of look at some of the supports that are available to our kids that we may not even be offering them, that we can look at, oh, that's maybe something that's missing from my program, or maybe that's something that's missing from my household that I can offer. One of the things I liked that Ray Lozano taught a workshop for us last month, and he talked about his house was the house where all the kids wanted to be. And it wasn't because there was no rules, but it was because there was fun stuff to be done there, and they loved on every kid that walked in the door, but there was a ground set of rules, and the kids need structure and rules, and they need consistency in their life, and a lot of kids don't get that. So that's one of the things that they may be needing. So just, I'm really excited to have so many workshops like yours at our conference. And what's weird is we have people flying across the country now to come to this workshop. So we're either doing something right, or people think that this is something that more than it's really going to be.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm so excited to be part of it, to meet the people there and get further ideas as to potential uses of the game if people use their creativity.
So if people want to learn more about the game, is there somewhere where they can go, like a website, or should they reach out to you directly? Like, share that information before we wrap this up.
Okay, yes. My website is called driversedforthebrain.com. And one of the tabs is entitled the support team game. And there's a little brief video there of me and a couple of my grandkids playing it, and a brief history and so forth. That'd be the easiest way. And my email is ryanhulbertphd@gmail.com. And Hulbert is spelled Hulbert.
Yeah, we'll have all of that for you in the description, whether you're watching this video on YouTube or if you are listening to this podcast audio only. We'll have Dr. Hulbert's email address and his website for you there. So you just have to click on it. You don't have to go searching and trying to, oh, how do I spell Hulbert again? So we'll take care of all that for you. But really want to thank you. And that website is a teaser to another thing that he does that we want to talk about at a different on a different podcast, because Dr. Hulbert has a lot of amazing things that he has done to try to engage in healthy ways with our youth to make sure that they're the best them that they can be. So I really want to thank you, Dr. Hulbert, for joining us today, giving us a few minutes of your time. I know you're a very busy man, to give everyone a sneak peek into what you will be offering at the Fall Prevention Conference in Moscow, Idaho at the university in October 3rd and 4th. Will be full 8-hour days, both days, but it's going to be fun. It's going to fly by, and we will be holding our monthly member meeting during the conference there in Moscow. We will try to figure out the Zoom aspect of it for those of you who can't attend because of work obligations, but it's going to be an amazing 2 days. It's going to fly by, and we have some really cool opportunities for you to live, laugh, and learn. So it's going to be cool. So I just want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Please share this podcast with someone that you know. If you know a teacher, or if you know someone who works with children or works with youth or works with people that are struggling, share this podcast with them, because even if they don't get a chance to attend the conference, they can visit Dr. Hulbert's website and learn more about his game, and possibly even purchase it for their group or community to utilize, and to help learn how we can pick the right assets to find ourselves in that successful end zone of life. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. If you want to, we have all of our podcasts archived. Just go to Let's Talk Prevention Idaho, and you can find all of the topics that we have covered, not only for this conference, but on the different subjects, whether it's marijuana here in Idaho, or alcohol, or opioid use. So tons of amazing podcasts. You can listen to them all archived there. If you are listening to it, listening to the podcast in a place where you can give us a rating, would love to get a 5-star rating, and please leave us a comment, good or bad. We want to know what we're doing right and what we could be doing better, so that your listening experience is the best. So I want to thank everybody. If you want to learn more about Community Coalitions of Idaho, the coalition that sponsors this podcast, go to communitycoalitionsofidaho.org, or just click the link down in the description. All right, guys, have a good one.